Okay, so now that we have our references that are pointing to our script files, let's go ahead and let's write some jQuery so we can actually see this in action. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my script file, and I'll begin by specifying jQuery, and then in parentheses I'm going to go ahead and put the selector, which in this case is going to be the document. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the action, which is going to be the .ready, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my parameter, which in this case is going to be a function. So the parentheses that I'm putting need to be here when you're writing jQuery. You're going to always pass on the properties that are specific to selectors, actions, parameters, whatever, will go in parentheses. This is a pretty common practice. And then once you're actually writing your function, you're going to go ahead and you'll wrap the function inside of a curly brace. And because I have to basically even out my parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and end my jQuery with a parenthesis and a semicolon, and then inside the middle I'll go ahead and I'll put the actual code that I want to have happen. So in this case we're just going to run an alert, and in the alert I'm going to go ahead and in parentheses pass what the value for that alert is going to be. The value is always going to go in a single quote, and we're just going to have it say the page is ready, and I'll go ahead and I'll end the single quote. I'll end my parentheses and put a semicolon. You terminate a statement by adding semicolons. So I just have a really simple basic line of jQuery that is going to see if the document's ready, and if it is, it's going to run an alert. So let's go ahead and let's save this, and then we'll go back into our HTML file and we'll just go ahead and test this in a browser. And so here's our page. I'm just going to go ahead and refresh, and you can see what happens. As soon as I get into my HTML page and refresh the page, I get a JavaScript window that pops up and says the page is ready. It's actually displaying our message just as we went ahead and wrote it, and every time I reload the page it's going to basically specify this little alert. So our jQuery is actually working. Excellent. So this is the first step in actually creating something. We'll go ahead and we'll augment this a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to just let you know our end goal. What we're going to be actually creating here is we're going to use jQuery to go ahead and find every other list item, and we're going to have it apply a different background color. So if this is a long list, it might be easier to separate the list items by changing the background color. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use jQuery to create this. You could do this using CSS. You'd have to put a class on every other list item, which is time consuming to add a class, but in jQuery we'll be able to do this quite easily. Now before we go ahead and actually create this script to do this, we're going to need to make a couple of quick changes to our page, and I also just want to review some simple selecting techniques in jQuery. So we'll start off by we'll just apply a couple of quick changes to our page. I'm going to go ahead and I have two unordered lists on my page, and I put these here specifically because I wanted to be able to demonstrate as we go through and talk about document ready how you can go ahead and target different items. So I made two separate unordered lists, and I'm going to assign a class to each of the unordered lists. The first unordered list is just going to have a class of numbers assigned to it, and then my second unordered list is going to have a class of colors assigned to it. So that's the only change we're making in the HTML here. Now, in order to select an item or some element on the page in jQuery, I'm going to need to tell jQuery what it is that I want to get information from. So you can do that in a multitude of ways. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go into our script file, and we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of change our document ready function that we already had created. I'm going to actually just go ahead and get rid of this, and instead of using jQuery as we had in the beginning, I'm going to use the more common method of targeting the jQuery library, which is just to use the $sign. This is kind of the shorthand alias for basically saying, hey, this is a jQuery statement. You can just use the $sign. So we'll probably be using this for the duration of the course because it's obviously going to be a little bit shorter and easier to write. So we're going to go ahead and put that, indicating that we are dealing with jQuery. I'm going to go ahead and pass on the document as the selector right here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll write the rest of our code. We're going to go ahead and type document.ready, and then we're going to go ahead and run the function just like we did before. And I'll go ahead and set up my little curly braces like we did before, and then I'll just terminate my statement like so. And then in the middle I will put what it is that I want to have happen right here. So we're going to run an alert just like we did before. So I'm going to go ahead and say alert. I'm going to open the parentheses, and then I'm going to go ahead and put another $sign, indicating that this is again a jQuery. I want to specify the jQuery alias. I'll open another set of parentheses, and then in single quotes I'm going to go ahead and put li. Now when I type li, I'm basically going ahead and I'm specifying lists items. So I'm specifying an HTML element, I'm specifying a list. So if I want to select every list item on the page, all I have to basically put is the $sign, and then in parentheses, in single quotes, I'll go ahead and put the code, the li code. What we're going to follow this with is we're going to put .length, and .length is going to, the alert is going to be the length of the selection. So any elements that are going to be currently matched by the selector will go ahead and we'll run an alert that's going to tell us basically how many of those elements exist. A simple way to basically be able to confirm that we're selecting the correct elements is to just temporarily run the length property, and the length property is going to return the number of elements currently matched by this particular selector. So we're going to go ahead and type length, and then I'm going to put plus, and then I'm going to put a space, and I'll put in single quotes elements, and I'll put the single quotes, and then I'm going to terminate with a parenthesis and a semicolon like so. So let's just save this script, and I'm going to verify that my HTML has been saved, and we'll just jump back into the browser and let's just refresh our page here. And when I do that, you can see what it says. I got a new alert box and it says 21 elements. Notice how the number is really close to the word elements. If I want to separate this out a little bit, all I have to do is make one quick change to my script. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put inside the single quote, I'll go ahead and put a space, and I'm going to go ahead and save my page again and save the script anyways, and let's just refresh this. And when we do, notice how now 21 space elements. So you can see that by placing that extra space inside the single quote, it's going to go ahead and generate the space here in the alert box. So what has this actually done? It's basically determined how many list items are on my page. If I come into my HTML document and we add another list item, so let's just add another color down here, and let's just go ahead and put cream or something like that. Doesn't really matter what we put. And if we go back and refresh the page, it should now say that we have 22 elements, which it does. So the jQuery is successfully firing. It's returning the values that we're interested in finding out. It basically is letting us know that, yeah, it's searching the list items that we have on our page, and it's returning a value for those specific list items. So this is going to allow us to see that we can select the list items. Well, ultimately what we want to do is we actually want to just change the list items in the number list. So we can do that by being a little more specific in our selector. So if we come back in here and go back into our jQuery, I'm just going to take this exact same function that we basically have created, and we're just going to augment this slightly. I'm going to go ahead and inside the alert parentheses right here, we're going to put ul dot numbers space li. So what are we targeting here? We're targeting an unordered list with a class of numbers. Any list item inside an unordered list with a class of numbers. So let's just save this page and let's refresh it in the browser again. And now you can see that it's giving me a different number. It's telling me that I have 12 items. So you can see here I have 12 entries in my list of numbers. So it's basically allowing us to be more specific and really control which elements on the page we want to target. This is a really powerful feature. It's awesome that we're allowed to become more specific like this and be able to identify these things. So with the knowledge that we can successfully select all of the list items or even specific list items that belong to a certain unordered list because it has a class assigned to it, we're going to narrow our selection down to every other row. And this is really simple to do in jQuery because jQuery has a filter to do it. Filter is going to remove certain items and keep only the ones we want. And you'll kind of get a feel for what can be filters as we work through some of the examples. But for now, we're just going to jump in and we're going to use a filter that's going to allow us to select every other list item. When you go ahead and use a filter, filters are attached to the item that you want to filter. So in this case, it's going to be the list items, and they are defined by a colon followed by the filter name. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the even filter. I'm going to come into this same little portion of my script and I'm going to put colon even, and when I save now and we go ahead and we come here and we refresh, we should get a different number. It's going to let us know that, hey, only 6 elements are selected. So now we know right away because of our alert that yes, it is only selecting half of the list items here. So this is pretty exciting that we can become so specific. And if I change I'm sure you can imagine that there is an odd filter as well. So if I change this to odd, in this case I should get the exact same results because I have an even number, 12 odd, 12 even, or 6 odd, 6 even list items. But if we added another list item to our HTML, you can see that those numbers would change. So if we just jump into the HTML and quickly add another list item, and we'll change this one to say 13, and if I just save this and if we refresh in the browser again, it's going to let us know that for the odd numbers it has 6 elements. So you need to remember that it's starting even, odd, even, odd, even, odd. So it's going to go ahead and say 6 elements, but if we then go and change our script to be even again and we save our page and refresh it, it's going to go ahead and let us know that now we have 7 elements. So you can see the JavaScript working, and it's kind of interesting to be able to run these alerts because it lets you know specifically what portion is being targeted really easily. So now that we know that we're successfully using this, we're actually selecting multiple elements in a single statement. It's really awesome. It's very, very powerful. So oftentimes we'll want to go ahead and apply the same action to several elements in unrelated portions of the page, and you can go ahead and you can do that as well. So let's just look at that quickly before we actually move on and create the multicolors. I'm going to come back into my page here, and this time I'm going to tell the jQuery statement that I want to select multiple elements. So we'll leave our ul numbers li even here, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to, inside of the single quotes, I'm going to separate by a comma, and I'm going to go ahead and type ul.colors space li, and we'll use the colon odd here. And let's go ahead and let's save. And now if we refresh on the page, we're going to get another element. It's going to tell us 12 elements. So remember, it's pulling 7 from our list of numbers. And then if we go ahead and scroll down on the page, you can see here we have 10 elements here, so it's selecting 5. So we get 7 plus 5 gives us 12 elements. So you can see that it's actually going through and selecting numbers from the number list, or list items from the number list, and also list items from the color list. So that's how you can select multiple elements. Let's go ahead and let's look at another example. We're going to go ahead this time and we're going to use CSS to decorate the page. So selecting elements in jQuery is actually the hard part. Everything else is going to be both easy and fun. So after we've selected our targets, we're going to be able to manipulate them and build effects or interfaces essentially. jQuery actions relating to CSS, like adding and removing styles, classes, things like that, the actions are going to be applied individually to every element that we've selected. So let's go ahead and see how this is going to work. When you change CSS properties, you're going to want to access them, and then jQuery lets us do this with the CSS function. So if you're familiar with CSS, this is going to look very, very familiar. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, just to simplify this a little bit, let's go ahead and let's just get rid of the call to the unordered list colors, and we'll just leave this on the unordered list of numbers right here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just pass on another filter. We have a filter of first, which will only select the first item in our list. And since I want to go ahead and talk about the CSS, or I want to target the CSS, I want to decorate with CSS, we're going to have to change our statement a little bit here. So what we'll do this time is we'll go ahead and we'll get rid of the alert. We're going to pass a variable on initially. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a variable called font size. And you basically just type var, and then you put the name of the variable that you want to declare. And I'm going to make that equal to, and then I'm going to say it's going to be equal to UL numbers li first, so the first list item in the unordered list of numbers. And what I want to basically target or discover here is I'm going to want to go ahead and specify .css, and then in parentheses, in single quotes, I'm going to put font dash size, just like you would when you're specifying CSS. And let's go ahead and let's tell, after it finds the font size, because right now it would just find the font size but it wouldn't tell us. So after it goes ahead and locates the font size, we're going to tell it to run an alert, and we want the alert to display font size. You'll notice here in the alert statement I don't have the value in the single quotes, and that's because this is actually going to be the value of the variable instead of an actual string literal term. When you want the value of alert to actually display what you write, like we did in the first example when we said the page is ready, that goes in the single quotes. When you're actually just passing on a value that's being stored, it doesn't need the quotes. So if we save this and if we come back to our page and refresh the page, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get an alert of 16 pixels. Now, I had never defined a size for anything in my page, so it's just using the default web-based size, which is 16 pixels, so that is correct. It's basically going ahead and locating the element that we specified by utilizing a filter, only the first list item, and it's going ahead and it's giving us back the font size on that particular element. So let's go ahead and let's now finally color every other list item. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just get rid of this whole statement here. Actually, we can reuse part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this to the $, and we'll put the ul numbers.li. Let's change this back to even. And then we're going to go ahead and leave the .css, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to request that it gives us the background color, or it changes the background color in this case. So I'll go ahead and type background color, and I'm going to go ahead and put my single quote, I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to put the value for the background color. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a gray color right here. This needs to be in the single quotes as well. And the statement looks good. Let's go ahead and let's save this, and we'll go ahead and test it in the browser. And perfect. You can see that every other list item is now, all the even list items are being selected and the background color is being changed. How cool is this? It's awesome that jQuery can quickly and easily go ahead and take on this information and change it so quickly.